You're listening to Adventures in Autism. Each episode, we will bring you the latest in news regarding autism, as well as our personal story and the topic of the week. We are not medical professionals, and none of the information that we give should be taken as such. Instead, we are parents of a severely autistic child. We are here to share our lives and our personal experiences with you. If you would like to know more about our personal story or access any of our other podcasts, you may do so through openeyesnetwork.com. If you would like to share your personal story with us, you may send an email to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com or access our Facebook fan page at Open Eyes Network, as well as our Twitter feed at Open Eyes Network. Thanks for listening. Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to another excellent adventure in autism. My name is Ira Robinson.
And this is Jolene Robinson.
Hello, Jolene.
Hello.
It's been so long since we've talked.
In a sense, yes.
We had to take a couple of weeks off. Last week was kind of a weird week for us, so we skipped the week and thought that you guys would not mind too much. But we are back, and tonight we have a pretty big topic for you guys. It's the subject of pets and what to do in regards to having a child with autism in the house when it comes to the idea of pets, bringing a pet into the house, and so on and so forth. It should be a pretty good episode, I think.
Yes, I agree.
So before we get into the topic, I did run across one bit of news that I wanted to bring to the show tonight. There is something that I ran across that really bothered me, to say the least. And I really wanted to bring it to you guys tonight. On change.org, which is a website that is used to, kind of push different advocacy type ideas, or if somebody has a petition or something like that, they can put it up there at change.org and help to get attention to it and so on. Well, there's a petition that is currently floating around there at the website that is in regards to a child with autism. And in particular, this case is basically that a girl who is in, I believe it was 7th grade, she's 11 years old, she was in an advanced placement math class, and she was doing really, really well with it. She had some help from her parents and some help from a tutor, but she started off the class with having kind of a C average, and she's now at the point where she's got a B plus or higher average in the class, which is a really good score when it comes to advanced placement mathematics. In particular, I think this was algebra that was the subject. Anyways, the school, for some unknown reason, is actually now making it so that she cannot take the class. She's not allowed to take the course. She's been barred from it. And it's because of her disability, according to the school. So here this girl is actually doing quite well in the class, but the school is claiming that she cannot take the class because she cannot do well in the class. It's a rather strange story, and the parent in this case, they cannot get a straight answer basically out of the school as to why she's being disbarred from taking this course, other than that she's incapable of successfully completing the course. Now, the thing is, as far as this course is concerned, she wants to take the course because in order to get into the college that she would like to get into in the future, she has to have this math course in her curricula in her credits, basically, for her education. So here's this child who is actually doing quite well in this class, who has in her mind that she would like to go to college. I mean, this is pretty good even for the average student, let alone, at 11 years old, let alone an autistic student at that.
If I were her or her parents, I would also contact the college that requires this requirement and explain to them this situation and see if maybe they can help to step in and say, look, she wants to be part of this. She's doing this. She's doing well. She's had C, if not higher, which, I mean, C is still great. We tend to not think so, but C is considered the average
It's
grade.
average, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, the fact that she's got a C or higher, regardless of whether she has autism or not, it shows that, she's doing good in the class, especially if it's an advanced placement. I had advanced placement for math in my 8th grade class. And I'll put it to you this way. It was an advanced placement for math. I don't remember now. I know we worked with matrices and stuff. And at the beginning of the class, like the first half, oh gosh, I was struggling so hard. And then the second half, when we got into the matrices, I was able to do. And if I were to pass this class, then I was able to skip freshman year of math and go straight into sophomore, so that basically when I got into senior year, I would have no math class. And at the end of the grade, me and the teacher talked, and she's like, well, I'll leave it in your decision, because you did technically pass the class, so you could get the credit in high school, but you were struggling there. And I agreed with her. I said, no, I need to retake the class, because I didn't, I agreed, I could have, yes, I could have. The temptation was there to just go ahead and do it. That way, senior year, I'm math free. But I also knew, okay, I was struggling with this. What is sophomore math going to be like?
Yeah.
So yeah,
not the best idea, right?
But in her case, she's passing. She's doing well. So like I said, contact, if the officials of the school themselves are going to be flippy about it, contact the college that she's interested in, because they might be lenient towards it. They might be able to say, okay, well, we see that she did take the class. The school was just stupid for whatever reason to tell you not to continue it. We'll go ahead and accept it. They might still be lenient.
Right, exactly. And you guys can go to change.org and get involved in the petition as well. She's trying to get an amount of signatures on it, basically, to pressure the school into allowing her daughter to continue taking the classes. So we'll have the link for that in the show notes for this show, as well as all the other things that we're going to talk about tonight as well. So that was one thing that I ran across that kind of drove me to distraction with it all. It's like, okay, I don't get what the school's deal is here. It's very confusing to me, and I can imagine what it would be like as the parent to go through this as well. It would kill me to see that happening to my kid. That's for sure.
That's kind of ridiculous. Did it say anything about, like, she's usually in a special ed class? Because if so, that's probably what the reason is. They're probably not getting enough funding because she's...
Right. Apparently they are claiming that she is supposed to have aides working with her, but she didn't actually need them. She didn't actually need them at all. So
yeah, so because of that, they couldn't get the extra funding because she's got a class where she doesn't need aides.
Right, exactly. So it's a bit of a confusing situation, and like I said, you can go to the actual petition and take a read of it. It's pretty lengthy, but it's very interesting, if nothing else. So that was that as far as a bit of news that I ran across. Now, as far as the topic tonight is concerned, we want to talk to you guys about pets. And I think that it's a pretty big topic because it's something that a lot of families out there have to deal with and come to terms with. There are a lot of kids with autism that really just can't handle pets, or at least the common pets. And that's one thing that we're going to get into tonight, as well as some other things. we're going to kind of take things from the perspective of if you already have a child and you're considering getting a new pet and bringing it in, as opposed to having a pet already and bringing an autistic child into the mix.
Yeah,
That's a little bit of a different subject. And, but I mean, that one comes down more to, I guess we can cover it really quickly. If the child is being raised with the pet from the get-go, it tends to be a lot easier because that's a familiar thing to them all the way around.
Yeah, that's there from the get-go.
So there's a lot of things that can be done as far as teaching the child.
Which we can quickly say with Seth, he had a little bit of that.
Yes. Yeah, when he was younger, we had a cat in the household as well as a dog, and the dog was a big golden lab. He was 120 pounds worth of lap dog, and so Seth adored that dog, but he ended up we ended up having to get rid of him because we moved into a place that didn't allow pets, and so we lost both him and the cat basically at the same time. So, but he did have kind of a basis at the beginning, and this was before the autism came to the forefront in his life. So he doesn't really remember them very much.
Yeah, not at all.
But anyway, so he had some experience from the beginning with them. At this point in time, we have one pet in the household that is not his sister, and that is our cat Elliot. We've had Elliot now for about 4 months at this point.
We've had him since March.
Yeah, so about 4 months, and he's been a really good addition in the household, especially for Seth. With Seth, one of the things that he had as a big prevalence that he would do is he would kind of run crazy through the house. Like from one side of the house to the other, just run, shrieking the whole way, and usually half naked as well.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of his thing. He would kind of get into an outburst of energy, and just he would have to let it out somehow, and that was kind of his thing to do. And he's gotten away from doing that at least some. I would say actually probably about
pretty much all the way.
About 90 or so % at this point. He's moved away from doing that because of the cat. It's directly because of us having Elliot.
Because he doesn't want to hurt Elliot.
Because he doesn't want to hurt Elliot, and he doesn't want to scare Elliot. So he's very mindful of this cat and where he's at and so on and so forth. And we'll get into all of that still as well. There's more that goes into...
We'll tell other little tidbits.
The experiences with Elliot and his adventures with Seth. But you had a couple of things that you wanted to speak about here at the beginning, and I want to go ahead and give you the time to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, so as I said, Seth did have interaction with pets at a very young age. Crystal did not. By the time Crystal was around, both Buster and the cat named Nala were out of the picture. And then they moved and moved again. And then we lived in a neighborhood, and there was a cat that kind of came around, so the kids had a little bit of an interaction with cat. And then we also did have a fish for a while. It was a...
yes, Fish Sandy.
Yeah, Fish Sandy. What kind of fish was that?
It was a betta.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Yeah, we got the fish. I wanted them to pick a name. Seth wanted to name the fish Fish. And Crystal wanted to name it Sandy. I was trying to push. I was like, look, we can name it a SpongeBob, because SpongeBob was all Seth was into at the time. It's like, we could name it a SpongeBob name, you know. I didn't care if it was boy name or girl name, and Seth said he wanted to name the fish Fish. Crystal said she wanted to name it Sandy, and then they agreed with the idea of naming it Fish Sandy, so it became Fish Sandy.
And they did pretty well with taking care of the fish, and Seth really enjoyed interacting with the fish as much as he possibly could.
Crystal would not stop putting her hands on the thing, and I think that's what killed the fish.
Yeah, eventually.
Her kept putting her hands on it and watching it swim away.
scaring the crap
Oh,
out of the
yeah.
fish constantly.
We couldn't get her to stop that.
But
for
she was
nothing.
she was about what 5 years old or so at that point in time. So,
Maybe that old.
yeah.
Yeah, she was really young yet.
So yeah, that was kind of his first real experience with a pet after he had gotten autism.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of an interesting experience. He did what he could to help take care of things. He'd
help
feed
me
it and
clean the tank and
clean it, right? Exactly. So it was cool. He got some out of it. He didn't interact with it as much as we had hoped he would, but he got some out of it.
yeah, we wanted to do a pet kind of thing, and we wanted to start small, so we did the fish thing, and like I said, like I was saying, he did good with it. Towards the tail end, he didn't want to feed it anymore. He just got kind of disinterested because you can't really do much with the fish, So that was his major thing, is he couldn't really do much. So it's kind of it's just there, But the sound of the aquarium running was soothing to him at the same time. So even after the fish died, I think we still kept it up for a while.
We did have the water running for a while there, yeah, and the humming,
Yeah.
the white noise.
So
One thing as well is that I think he had kind of in his mind at that point in time was he really wanted to get a dog. That was the pet that he wanted to get, was a dog. And unfortunately, with the situation that we're in, getting a dog is kind of not the best thing that we could have done. So we were never able to get him, a puppy as far as that goes. I do think that he would have had a really good interaction with a dog, but anyways, that's kind of getting a little bit ahead.
yeah, Crystal has a fear of dogs. So
Yeah.
if we were to get one, it'd have to be small.
It'd have to be
with.
the small yappy dogs, and I can't stand the small yappy
Or we
dogs.
get it as a very young puppy to begin with.
Right.
And deal with tearing up shoes and
Yeah.
teething, all that jazz. So then after that, after the fish, like I said, we lived in a neighborhood where there was a neighbor just crossways from us. She had a cat, and sometimes it'd come out. So we would see the cat every once in a while, and we knew the cat was okay to pet. We knew it didn't have fleas or anything. So we'd pet it if it came by. And then there was that one bookstore that's nearby that we'd go, and they had that cat that roamed around.
Yeah, exactly.
And Seth
Which
just
is all
loved that.
all kinds of cool. I love going to that bookstore. And
Yeah, we need to
interacting
go
with
there
the
again
cat.
soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the cat would be roaming around. So anytime we'd go, Seth would be like, "Oh, there's the cat. And can we pet it?" Well, yeah, it lives here. If it'll let you pet it, you can. I mean, it lives here. So yep. And then yeah, just a few months ago, we mentioned about getting a cat. It was actually mainly for Crystal, but it's kind of influenced the whole household.
Yeah, it's been a really good addition to our household. Elliot has been a lot of fun, and even if he likes to annoy me while I'm doing my recordings, I still love the kitty. So I've always been kind of a cat person. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely a cat person. I will not deny. I'm a cat person, so the idea of getting a cat was pleasing. Plus, cats are low maintenance, so it's an easier, it's the next step. We got a fish. A cat is kind of the next step.
Right, exactly.
Because anything else is kind of more maintenance. Even a gerbil is kind of more maintenance because they're noisier and you still got to clean their cages all the time. And
Well, I don't know about noisier. This cat can really kind of caterwaul in the middle of the night at me.
he's not how my cat Taz was. I'll tell you that.
No, definitely not. Anyways, so we had kind of in mind as well to give you guys a bit of pros and cons when it comes to pets with having an autistic child. And I want to go into the cons first. I like to hit with the negative first so that we can end on more positive notes. So if you don't mind, we can do that.
I don't care.
Okay.
It's your show.
Well, it's your show, too.
I know.
So one of the things that we thought of is that, of course, when it comes to having a pet, no matter what kind of pet it is, there's the idea of unforeseen allergies. That's one advantage with if you have family or friends or whatever that have pets already of the type that you're considering getting, you can maybe have your child go there and have some pretty deep interaction with that animal to know whether or not it's going to be a bothersome allergy issue, that will crop about basically at a later point in time.
And know that no matter what type of animal it is, there is a such thing as being allergic to that animal.
Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, most definitely. Including gerbils and hamsters and all of that, there really are a lot of kids out there that are allergic to those just as much as there are those that are allergic to cats or dogs. Maybe on a little bit of a lesser note because they tend to be more in an enclosed, caged area kind of thing, but still it is a bother.
Yeah. Either way, it's good to make sure that you've interacted with the animal type before, just to be on the safe side.
Right. Just to make sure. So we recommend, and do this with any kid. I mean, especially not just one that has autism, but for any kid, the first step would be somehow find the same type of animal and be able to get some interaction with it for a little while. Usually, what they recommend is you'd be able to tell if they've interacted with them for at least 30 minutes. If they have not been bothered by that point, most likely they're not going to have an allergy problem with that type of animal. It'll usually crop up there within that first 30 minutes. And what you'll see is you'll see their eyes starting to get bloodshot. You'll start maybe see them
eyes
runny
water.
nosing and that type of thing, maybe itching on the skin or whatever the case may be. There's usually that kind of a histamine reaction that's going on, and you'll know when that occurs. They will be pretty obvious. So that's step number one, basically, is to make sure that they're not allergic somehow. It might not be as easy as far as like with hamsters and gerbils or something like that goes,
or even a ferret.
Or a ferret, yeah. Just because it's harder to find those to interact with, but you can find somebody that has them. Now, one other thing as well, and this goes into a pretty big con, is that a lot of kids have deep fears of certain types of animals, and you may not know it until they've had the chance to at least have some interaction with them. So in the case of Crystal, she is really terrified of dogs, and we cannot get her broken of that habit.
She says she is, and then we go to our neighbor that lives across the street, and they have a what kind of dog is that?
It's a little Jack Terrier type.
No, the Jim's dog.
Oh, that one is a husky, Malamute.
Yeah, there you go. Big dog. Almost as tall as she is. Gosh, that dog is so big, but it is...
Oops, sorry.
Is your chair breaking? Oh,
no.
Gosh, I see. Anyways, this dog is so big. But it is so gentle. It is like a big fluffy teddy bear. It is just the nicest dog you could ever ask.
And a lot of Malamutes are that way, so...
Yeah, it is just nice. You could, I'm not its owner or anything, and I hardly know the dog, but I could tell it to sit, and the dog will sit. It is just a nice dog, but she is terrified of this dog, and it's like, this dog doesn't bark, hardly. If he starts barking, the owners just say, Coda's its name, Coda, stop. He'll stop.
Yep.
And it's just a nice dog, and she's just terrified of that dog. And it's like, this is a nice dog. He doesn't bark. He's very nice. He's very fluffy. Nope, she's terrified of it.
And then we go over to Joe Long's house. He's the co-host there with me on Brothers at Arms and sometimes comes on to Open Eyes with me. And he's got 3 dogs, and all 3 of them are big, barky dogs.
Labradors.
All labs, yeah. And she can't even walk into the house without just totally shaking and being terrified.
So he's got to take them outside so that we can go in the house. And then sometimes they'll be like, well, guess what? They need to come in a little bit. So then they come in, and so the kids go to the basement because the dogs aren't allowed to go down to the basement. So they go towards the basement, and they're just at the steps, and the dogs are there. And I try to get her interested. I'm petting with the dogs or playing with the dogs, and she'll see the dogs kind of nip at each other, and she's like, they're hurting each other. They're playing.
This is how they play, Chris.
If they were in pain, they'd be doing more than yipping. but she's just so afraid because they're big. Whereas the other dog that I was saying, the Jack Terrier, that's across the street, she's more comfortable with that one. That one's gotten out. It's an elderly lady that owns that dog. Whenever her dog gets out, Crystal is always like right there trying to help get him. Because he's a small dog.
Yeah,
a small dog.
He's a little thing and a real hairy fur ball kind of thing running down the road. So
he's pretty funny.
So she doesn't mind him too much, but anything bigger than him, she tends to not care for too much. Now Seth, he's a little bit easier with the bigger dogs.
If they bark,
Crystal.
It kind of freaks him out. But aside from
Right.
that.
One of the issues as well that Seth's got is that when he was younger, there was a neighbor dog that got out, and the dog kind of nipped at his face a little bit. And so anytime that one of them kind of comes near up into his face, it really bothers him. But beyond that, he doesn't mind dogs really at all. He's just kind of, hey, that's cool. It's a dog.
Yeah, like the last time we went to Joe's, Crystal was still at the basement steps, and he was up with me with the dogs. He didn't care for them too much because they were still puppies at the time, and so they were yippy and yappy and
very much in the face and out of control kind of dogs.
Yeah, but he was able to be out there with them. Like he'd sit on the couch, and they kind of want to get on the couch, what they're not supposed to do, and he'd be like, down and down.
So that's one thing that's a point of concern, is that you want to make sure that they're not going to be afraid of the animal.
Or even afraid of any habits they have. Like, for example, a cat. If you have a female cat, they go into heat. So if they're not aware of this sort of thing, and all of a sudden the cat is just caterwauling, not understanding why the cat is,
screaming and hollering.
That might be, that might frighten them unless they're told of ahead of time.
Right. And then you get some cats, for instance, that are very kittenish, that even as older cats, that, they see something move like underneath the blanket and they immediately try to attack it and play the blanket game and so on and so forth. But,
and you walk past the bed and then they swipe at your feet.
Yeah. most kids are fine with that kind of thing, but, with an autistic kid, it might be different. That might be a little bit of a different thing. So, you want to make sure to get one that is maybe not having that tendency, unless you know that your kid is one that can handle it. Right. So, and another one as far as habits goes is dogs that tend to like to get up into the laps, and, there's others as well that they'll scratch at themselves constantly and that kind of thing. And,
or if you get a lizard of some sort and they go on the ceiling and drop.
Which I had one that was like that. He would
That's
do
why
that
I say
to
that.
anybody. He would do that to anybody that would walk in the house and didn't like lizards. He knew it, and he'd go up into the curtain rod and then drop down right onto their lap. Boy, he loved freaking people out. So another thing that you had come up with, and I thought this was great, is as far as their annoyance factor is concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, annoyances with, like, for example, sounds. Again, with the cat caterwauling because it's in heat, just playing a dog,
and
being
sometimes
a dog.
with the cats, they're really loud, screechy kind of plaintive cries.
Yeah, they can be.
And sometimes with an autistic kid, that can be really grating on their nerves. So
another sound I have is like, say you get like a gerbil or a hamster or whatnot. I've had both. I've had both a hamster and a gerbil, and the hamster was fine. The hamster died. I got the gerbil. Oh my gosh, that I'm never getting a gerbil again. No. It was the most annoying animal ever. Had one of those little wheels. It was the same one my hamster used. That gerbil would not stop using that little wheel.
The constant spinning
and it was a
noise
plastic one too, and it still squeaked. And it's just like, I'd try to go to bed, and the cage is in my room because it was mine, and Lori, stop it. Oh man, I when that gerbil died, I was like, hallelujah, I'm so glad, But, something like that, a toy that's for the animal could be an annoyance because the sound, the squeaky noise, or, whatever. Another annoyance could be the smell.
Yeah.
animals give off smells, whether it be them doing their duty or just their natural smell, or
some dogs, for
wet
instance,
dog.
constantly have the wet dog kind of smell to them.
Or not even that, just their the breath, because they pant all the time. Or it could be, a lizard.
Yeah, lizards kind of have that distinctive kind of a smell to them.
Exactly. So, it kind of depends on what animal you get, and they could give off a smell. Plus, too, if they accidentally make a mess inside the house, then that could be an annoyance. Especially if you have a cat and they spray inside the house and stuff.
Yeah, which gives boy, that's a horrible smell. I'll just tell you that.
Just plain
right
cat
now.
pee is
yeah.
But that sort of thing, and also the texture of the pet. So they may, for example, be comfortable with the fur of the cat or the dog, but if they're constantly in their face, then that could quickly become an annoyance. The feeling of the fur.
Right. And some kids are more responsive to certain textures than others. So they might love the feel of the fur of a cat or something like that, but a dog's fur does have that slightly different feel. So they might not like that, or they might not like the feel of like a lizard's skin or something like that. So again, you kind of want to have some interaction with this type of animal before you get it, because you don't want to bring a pet into the house and then have to turn around and get rid of it and all that kind of stuff. That's really, you don't want to have to do that if you don't want to.
When we got Elliot, he had been brought back to the shelter
twice.
Yeah. And so we were like, oh, this poor cat, we're definitely taking him.
Yeah, exactly. So depending on the type of pet that you get, they do have a tendency to get into things and can actually cause destruction or anything like that, or just the fact that they're into it, that can really get on an autistic kid's nerves if they have that tendency towards having things just so or something like that.
One thing with Elliot that kind of drives Seth, he laughs about it, but I know it bothers him, is that Elliot likes to go into the closet. We just have bifold doors, and they just roll back and forth. And so Elliot goes up to the door, and he's pushing his paw, trying to get into Seth's closet. Seth's like, Elliot, no, there's nothing in my closet for you. But if there's 2 or more people in his bedroom, Elliot's like, I want to go in the closet. So if I'm in his room for whatever reason, he goes straight to the closet, and Seth's like, Elliot, no, because we can hear it banging, rolling on the roller, and Elliot, there's nothing in the closet for you. That's just a simple cat. Let's take into consideration of a dog, maybe carrying shoe around, or let alone destroying.
My thought is Seth on the floor building Legos. We have a dog. The dog comes in, steps on the Legos, break everything, and oh boy, that would just send Seth into a meltdown in a heartbeat.
Or something like a ferret that just kind of buries its way into anything. And,
yeah, exactly.
It kind of depends on what you get, or if you just plain have a smaller creature, whether it be a hamster or a lizard, and it gets out, now you got to find it, and who knows where it is, and they might find it in something of theirs. Might not be a pleasant thing.
Yep, exactly. So before we take the break, we have one more, and this is kind of a dual thing, is when it comes to the idea of harm, whether the idea is where there's a danger of the child harming the pet or the pet harming the child. Sometimes when you get a big dog, for instance, and it's one that is maybe not been raised exactly right, or raised with that particular kid around, or whatever the case may be, they might have a tendency towards, causing harm, whether on accident or on purpose. And that's something definitely to take into consideration. The idea as well is with a cat, they have claws, and if they get annoyed with you doing something, they will scratch you. Do
not declaw cats.
No, don't ever. But anyways, so that's one thing to keep in mind is, in particular, if you have a child who tends to like to grab, let's say a cat, for instance, they grab hold of the tail or, whatever the case may be, not only is that child harming the pet, but the pet may lash out at the child, just in desperation to get away, So that's one thing to bear in mind as well when it comes to trying to get a pet with an autistic kid. It just really depends on your kid. You know, if you think that they might have a tendency to do that kind of thing, then you might want to consider getting a pet that is not going to be kind of free roaming, and maybe get like into the gerbil or hamster or something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of why, we waited for Seth to be a little bit older before we thought about getting an actual pet aside from a fish. And then when we got Elliot, we specifically looked for a cat that was not a kitten, at least a year old.
We wanted it at least a year old so that it wouldn't be a problem.
It'd be more mature and not so
easily
not
get
so
away.
kitten.
And
Not so kitten.
If Seth had a tendency to do something or whatever, then it would be able to get away and that kind of thing. So, that kind of thing was in our minds when we sought out getting this pet to bring into the home. So let's go ahead and take a break here real quick. And when we come back, we'll talk about the positives, the pros that we have in mind when it comes to pets, especially in regards to autistic children. We'll be right back. Open Eyes looks for the truth in all things, no matter where it may lead. Whether it is the paranormal, government cover-ups, the dark agenda that the puppet masters are bringing to this world, or aliens and UFOs, no subject is taboo or off-limits. Listen to Open Eyes Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on the L&M Network at latenightinthe.midlands.com or openeyesnetwork.com, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Open hearts, open minds, open eyes. Have you been looking for answers? Have you been seeking the truth but can't seem to find it? Late Night in the Midlands has the answers for you. Whether you are interested in the paranormal, aliens and UFOs, alternative health information, or just a little hope and inspiration, we have a show for you. Late Night in the Midlands, The Secret Teachings, Open Eyes, Red Pill Reality Show, Brothers at Arms, and many more shows. All here on the L&M Network for you to listen to at any time that you want. Everything is free to listen to, and though it is not required, we are listener supported, and all donations are deeply appreciated. You will not find shows like these in the mainstream media. Go to latenightinthe.midlands.com to listen. The L&M Network, where the truth has no fear.
The L&M Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information, and subscribe today. Information on becoming an L&M subscriber can be found at the top of latenightinthe.midlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of latenightinthe.midlands.com and help us help you.
again. Welcome back to Adventures in Autism. My name is Ira.
And this is Jolene.
And we would like to welcome you back from that break. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. Before we took the break there, we were talking about some of the cons that are involved in picking and getting a pet, especially in regards to a child with autism in the household. And we wanted to talk about the positives that are involved in this situation as well, because there really are a lot of them. And we just kind of thought of a few that we would like to bring to you guys. So, Jolene, why don't you get us started with the first one that you have on your list?
Well, the first one is kind of the most obvious one, is companionship. Depending on the type of pet, it'll range in how much companionship it'll bring to your kid. A fish, not really much, but the higher up, the bigger the pet, the more intelligent, maybe the pet is.
The more we're able to interact with the child.
Yeah, the better the companionship. So it's like, for example, we have the cat. Cats are pretty self-reliant. They're pretty much to themselves. So they're not big on the companionship part. However, especially in our case, we have a male cat. So the male cats usually tend to like to be petted and do like to be around people. So Seth will come out of his room. "Oh, look at Elliot. He's so cute." And, "Oh, Elliot licked me." And he'll pet Elliot. "Oh, he's letting me pet him." So it gives a little bit of companionship,
Yeah, he definitely, he adores the cat. He really does.
Oh, yes.
He will, every time he comes out of the room, the first thing that he sees looks for is the cat. Whether he's coming out to go to the bathroom or get a drink or whatever the case may be, he comes out and he'll just be like, "Where's Elliot?" And he'll start
he's
searching
in his
around.
kitty tower.
Yeah, he loves it. He loves it when Elliot's up in his kitty tower asleep at the top of the crow's nest area, and he just, "Oh, look at him laying there. He's so cute. Look at his little ears." And
you can see his little legs sticking out.
And like I said, the big thing with him that we've noticed is that he is so much calmer because the cat is in the household compared to how he was before we got the cat. It really is a night and day difference. We've had much fewer incidences of meltdowns in the house since Elliot's been around.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's because maybe Seth is subconsciously thinking, well, I can't have this because Elliot's going to start freaking out or not like me or whatever the case may be. Whatever it is, I'm thankful for it because it definitely has reduced the amount. Now, when it comes to companionship as well, there is one thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the fact that now, especially because autism is becoming so prevalent, there is a plethora of different foundations and corporations and such that are providing service animals for autistic kids, especially dogs. And I think that is a big one to me, a big pro when it comes to the pets idea. The service animals, they're not just pets, they are literally the companions for this child. And depending on the child that you get, depending on the pet that you get for your child, depending on the child that you get, depending on the pet that you've got for your child, there are ones that will be tailored specifically for the needs of that child. So if you have a child who is nonverbal, you could get a service animal that is aware of the needs of the child and can actually help you figure out what is going on with the child and be a better provider, basically, for the child. And there's even cases where that can be said as far as a non-service dog is concerned. Dogs are very social and they're very aware when things are going wrong with the people around them, and they will do what they can to make you aware of it one way or the other. So even in a non-service animal capacity, that still is something that's there.
Yep. Also kind of ties into another pro that I have, which is the helping the child learn expressions, learning to express themselves. For example, Seth being able to come out and go, "Aw, Elliot is so cute." You know, he never really talked like that before. He would never really go, "Aw, isn't my sister cute?"
Yeah,
or,
he was never the aw kind of kid.
yeah, nope. Nowadays, nope. Almost every day he comes out, "Aw, Elliot's so cute. He's so adorable." I mean, he's seen Joe's youngest, which is just barely a year-old daughter. He never said, "Aw, she's adorable." But here, Mr. Elliot, every day, "Aw, he's so adorable. Look at him. His legs sticking out of his little scratcher bed. It's so cute." And yeah, it's helping him to express emotions a little bit more.
It is, yeah. And he's become more apt, I guess, to act social because he does come out a lot more now.
Because he wants to know where Elliot is.
Right, out of his shell a little bit and talks to people. You know, he talks to us about what he sees Elliot doing and that kind of thing. And that's something that, you know, unless it was Minecraft related, he never really would talk to you about anything really. So, yeah, I mean, that's a big one, I think, as well, is that it really does help them to come out of their shell a little bit. And that's something that's really important with an autistic kid.
Yeah, Elliot had a hairball the other day, and Crystal told me about it. Well, Crystal and Grandma told me about it, but Seth also told me about it. He didn't know they told me about it. And Seth's like, Mommy, Elliot got sick. He had a hairball. It was horrible. I didn't know what to do. He's like, "Is he okay now?" Yeah, he's okay now.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, yeah, exactly. He comes up with concerns and, you know, has the pet been fed? You know, has Elliot food?
That's another one, responsibility, depending on the cat, or depending on, well, the cat too, but I mean, depending on the animal and how much care they need, they can learn to help take care. So, for example, with Elliot, he does, him and his sister kind of take turns. She usually gives him his wet food, but Seth, every once in a while, he likes to give Elliot his wet food. And I let him do it all by himself. I mean, it's just, it's not one of those cans. It's got a plastic wrapper.
Yeah, it's not like one of the ones you need a can opener to get open. And that
yeah,
kind of thing,
and it's not the pull tab cans either. It's an actual plastic thing, and you just lift the thing. Elliot likes those the most, and so I just let Seth do it himself. He opens it, puts it in his dish, uses a spoon if need be, and there he goes. And sometimes, he doesn't do this often, but sometimes when I change Elliot's litter, whether it's just scooping it for the day or actually changing the entire litter, sometimes Seth will help too. So that's taking on responsibility, because I never ask for his help. He'll just come in and say, "Hey, you need help with this? If you want to help, okay, sure," and he'll help them there. Same with the fish, when we had Fish Sandy. At first, he was real good at feeding it towards the tail end, not so much, but he always helped when it came to cleaning it. He loved helping to clean it.
Yeah, he got a big kick out of cleaning out the tank.
So, I mean, that's another thing, you know, depending on the animal and their level of responsibility, they can help. They may still need supervision, such as I'm never going to let Seth, well, I'm not going to say never, but at this point, I'm not going to let Seth clean the litter box by himself, but he needs supervision. But, you know, take each kid as they are, you know.
Right, exactly. And that the responsibility thing, I think, really does push a good issue too, because the more you can give them responsibilities, I think the more open they become as well. Because they start, you know, feeling a little bit more of the independence when you give them responsibilities.
The more self-reliant they feel.
Right. And that's a big thing when it comes to the autistic kids, is that they have such a problem with self-confidence, with any kind of social interactions, with any kind of sense of really self-worth. A lot of them have that issue. So I think it's a good one, as far as the, you know, giving them responsibilities and chores, I guess you could say, that they're capable of doing. Well, like you said with Seth, changing the litter box, that's a pretty big one for him, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that one involves smell, you know. I mean, Elliot, thankfully, his duty doesn't smell really horrible. Thankfully, it's very, very mild compared to the cats that I've had. but still, I mean, the smell of the litter, because it does, the kind we do have is a scented. It's the one the shelter gave us, and I didn't want to switch it if Elliot was already used to it. So it does have a smell. It has a fresh scent to it, and so and then the grit of the sand. I mean, there's kind of sense and tactile quirks to it, but he's okay with doing it sometimes. So if he's okay with doing it, then I'm going to let him do it.
Right.
Of course, not by himself, because I mean it's really easy to get the litter everywhere.
Yeah. And then lastly, there's the idea of it being really pleasing tactily. With the pets, we were discussing earlier about how some of them might not like the feel of certain pets, but there are others that you could get that would be pleasing for them. Like Seth loves petting Elliot. He likes the feel of his fur, but he doesn't really particularly care for like short-haired dogs and that kind of thing. That he doesn't really like the way that they feel too much. Long-haired dogs, yes, but short-haired dogs, no. So with Elliot having the really soft, fuzzy kind of fur, he likes to feel him and to pet on him.
Especially his belly fur.
Especially the belly fur, right, exactly, which, of course, Elliot gets annoyed at. But
he'll let you do it like 2 or 3 times before he starts putting his foot on your hand, and it's like, nope, I'm done. And if you keep going, then he's going to play with your hand.
It's time to play with it now.
Yep.
So that's another big one, I think. So we've got just a few minutes left here, hon. I wanted to go ahead and let you get out some final thoughts. I know that you have a big list of things that you want to give, and I think it's really important to get that out.
Yeah. So basically, before getting a pet, this is kind of a recap of what we've already said, but before getting a pet, make sure that the kid is okay with the idea of getting a pet to begin with, as well as the pet type. It depends on the child, I mean, don't make it a surprise, like Christmas time, you get a puppy in a box kind of thing,
Not a good idea when it comes to an autistic kid.
Unless you know for sure that they can handle it. Like when we got Elliot, we talked to the kids first. Crystal was the first to kind of know about it. But we talked to Seth. Are you okay with the idea of getting a cat? Of course, then he was kind of like, well, I would prefer a dog. And Crystal's like, no. And he's like, but a cat's okay. Maybe I can teach him tricks. We are able to teach Elliot tricks, but he kind of only does a certain trick to each certain person.
Yeah.
He's kind of funny in that aspect, but yeah, so he was still okay with the idea of getting a cat. And so we went as a family to the local, what is it, PetSmart?
Yeah.
Because they carry shelter cats there. They rotate them. And we went there and we saw the cat, and it's a cat that, funnily enough, we had both brought the kids on separate occasions and saw that cat there and was like, he's pretty interesting. So we asked them, we visited with the cat, and we were in there for, 10, 15 minutes?
About that, yeah.
About that. And we interacted with the cat, and he came up and he let us pet him, and he was just real gentle. Of course, it's kind of hard to tell until you actually take him home how they are, but we decided right then and there, nope, this is the cat we want. Seth was like, I really like this cat. And so it was a group effort. We knew about it ahead of time. It was not a surprise, you got a cat, and we didn't just bring one home without them, without him choosing,
Right.
And they even picked out a name before we got him, although we ended up just sticking with the name he had. The kids agreed on the name Woody. But we found out that this cat's name was Elliot, and Seth's like, you know what? I like that name, Elliot. And Crystal's like, good, I do too. So we just agreed we'll just keep the name he's got. So.
Yep.
And then, let them pick out the cat, or let them pick out the pet, and let them name it, even if they can speak, of course. If your child can speak, let them help pick out the name or make an abbreviation of the name. For example, when we had the fish, Seth's name for it was Fish, Crystal's was Sandy, so it was Fish Sandy. So if you have multiple kids, maybe let them have like a section of its name, you know. If they can't agree, there's nothing wrong with, you know.
Togor the Barbarian.
Yeah. One can name it Princess, the other can name it Joy. Princess Joy,
There you go. There you go. Well, you know, our contribution, or Seth's contribution to Elliot has been that Elliot is now officially named Elliot Fluffy Bottoms Robinson.
No. Elliot, Mr. Fluffy Bottom.
Mr. Fluffy Bottom, right.
Mr. Fluffy Bottom.
Mr. Fluffy Bottom.
Mr. Fluffy Bottom is his middle name.
Yep. So we've got just about a minute left here. So
yeah, I'm almost done. So basically, make sure the kid is exposed to the animal before they interact with it to make sure they're comfortable around it. And if it's the first time getting an animal, make sure it's not a baby. You know, that's just kind of depending on the animal, if it's, you know, a cat or a dog, try not to get a baby.
Yeah, don't get like a kitten and bring it in. You want to make sure that you get one that is already at adult status, or at least young adult, just so that it has a better time interacting
better
with them.
Tolerance for the child.
Yeah, exactly. So, you got any final thoughts that you want to add?
No, I pretty much skimmed through it real fast
Okay.
there, so...
Well, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We definitely appreciate it. If you guys want to go to the show notes for this show, you guys can go to openeyesnetwork.com/AA008. And if you want to send us an email, which we definitely love to hear from you guys, we've gotten some great feedback on the show, and you guys have really been loving what we've been bringing you so far, and we definitely appreciate hearing from you about that. Send it to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. We'll even take any topics that you guys have in mind that you would like to hear us discuss. We're more than happy to do that, and we will definitely touch on topics that we've already talked about as well. We have no issue with doing that. So if you want to go to our Facebook or Twitter feeds, those are at Open Eyes Network on both of those platforms. And in the meantime, thank you so much for listening. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and hope you hear us again.